It turns out water wasn't the cause of all that wreckage in Texas. It was just a flood of DEI. This is just another day. The horrors of the devastating flood in Kerr County, Texas are still being felt by the community and our nation as a whole, and no one is grieving more than Charlie Kirk.
We are in a state of national mourning, as we should be, and the Democrats, they're so despicable.
Yes, I believe every good eulogy during a state of national mourning begins with the ceremonial bashing of the dirty libs. Please, continue.
What you are not being told by the media anywhere is that the death toll likely would not have been as high if it wasn't for DEI.
Sure, while most people can point to the myriad of logical causes for what happened, such as an act of God exacerbated by climate change coupled with budget cuts that eliminated key scientific positions, the other, much less beloved Captain Kirk has decided to go another way.
Let me prove it to you. In 2014, the Obama administration sued the Austin Fire Department, about 11 years ago, fire union, for supposed racial discrimination, resulting in a settlement. So the Obama administration was so worried that the fire department in Austin, Texas was racist because, you know, when you're putting out fires, you got to make sure that you have a diverse fighting force. So a few years later, they picked Joel Baker as their first black fire chief. But when you hire people based on race, you're not hiring based on skill. So right now, Baker is facing a vote of no confidence by his union for, this is the key, for denying the pre-deployment of resources to Kerrville, Texas.
It goes without saying for a guy with gums like these, but your argument lacks teeth. Look, if it turns out that Baker, Austin's fire chief, was in fact negligent, which the mayor of Austin has said he wasn't and even categorized his relief effort as going above and beyond, that would be one thing. But even if he was negligent, that still doesn't make him a DEI hire. It makes him a guy who screwed up at his job. If you pay attention to politics today, you're probably intimately familiar with people like that. And let's take a step back here. What is Charlie Kirk accusing Baker of exactly? Not supplying the proper resources to people in need? That is literally the mantra of this administration. Donald Trump campaigned on cutting funding from agencies whose goal is to prevent disasters and giving people support when they inevitably do. Somehow, when white people jeopardize the safety and well-being of Americans, it's not the time to point fingers. But when a black person does it, suddenly it's another instance of DEI destroying our once great nation. And it's an excuse Donald Trump falls back on over and over again. Remember back in January when military helicopters were crashing on his watch?
I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense. Okay, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game.
Yeah, probably not the best example to use considering even a chess game has an equal amount of black players. Nothing that Donald Trump can't solve with a simple fix. Trump made the eradication of diversity, equity, and inclusion the centerpiece of his re-election effort, and the minute he got into office, he took action.
President Trump continuing a record-setting flurry of executive actions with a new series of orders that aim to end all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, programs. President Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, telling NBC News in a statement, quote, President Trump campaigned on a merit-based society where people are hired based on their skills, not for the color of their skin.
That's right, based on their merit, the caliber of their work. Like Sean Duffy, the guy who was leading the Department of Transportation when just months ago, Newark Airport had to cancel tons of flights because it was deemed unsafe. And also the guy in charge when those helicopters and planes were running into each other more than Matt Gaetz runs into the high school girls track team when he just happens to be out for a casual jog. What did Sean Duffy get for his merit?
President Donald Trump names U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy as interim administrator of NASA.
NASA? Sure, why not? Trump saw planes falling out of the sky and thought, okay, but what if they fell from a higher altitude? And it's not just Duffy. Let's take a look at the rest of this administration. An administration that for the first time in history is based solely on merit. We've got a weekend Fox anchor as the Secretary of Defense, an anti-vax conspiracy theorist who has no medical or public health degree as Secretary of Health and Human Services. We've got Howard Lutnick leaving his full-time role as Trump's fluffer to serve as Secretary of Commerce. This administration is a who's who of people who have no business serving in their roles, which puts on full display what Republican protests against DEI are actually about. They're not looking for qualified. They are looking for white men. That's all this is. The way this administration paints DEI is simply a less explicit form of racism, and it is their scapegoat for everything.
The Dodgers are being sued over the team's diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. That's according to a report from The Hollywood Reporter. The suit was said to have been filed Monday by America First Legal, a conservative group founded by White House Deputy Chief of Staff and Santa Monica native Stephen Miller. The lawsuit claims that the Dodgers and their ownership group, Guggenheim Partners, illegally discriminate against straight white men. The suit was filed less than 2 weeks after the team said they denied federal immigration agents access to Dodger Stadium.
Right, because if I know anything about Major League Baseball, one class that is most underrepresented is straight white men. And it's not just sports. Corporate America is also dealing with this horrible scourge of DEI.
They churned out these DEI graduates who were ready to go into all of corporate America and DEI-ify their companies.
There is no problem. There is not systemic bias in corporations against females or minorities. The opposite is the case. Females and minorities are being privileged at every possible opportunity. It's straight white males who are being disadvantaged by their race and sex and sexual preferences.
Yeah, when will white guys in corporate America finally catch a break? And by the way, this war on three-letter acronyms is not new. The Republican Party has been demonizing three-letter acronyms for decades, and I'm not even talking about HPV, which I'd presume they have in great supply. Before DEI, the horrific murder of George Floyd brought CRT into the mainstream, which, according to conservatives, became a worse offense than putting your knee on a man's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Before CRT, after George Zimmerman was acquitted in the shooting death of Trayvon Martin, an unarmed black teenager, the BLM movement began as a reaction to people believing that, Black lives matter. And before even that, George W. Bush trotted out WMDs and painted anybody skeptical of his claims as America-hating traitors. The right has been demonizing these three-letter phrases for years. In fact, they've grown so accustomed to the fear-mongering about these acronyms that sometimes they don't even know why they're so afraid.
Do you think that there should be rules about what is taught in school?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what wouldn't you like to see taught in school?
Because there's critical race theory.
Yeah, that critical race theory, as soon as I heard about that, I'm like, why are we doing this?
What is critical race theory?
I don't know. I haven't.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but I hate it. What are you, a 5-year-old who has just served broccoli? Not only is the weaponization and vilification of three-letter acronyms nothing new, but trying to make it seem new is the most on-brand move for Donald Trump outside of his marriages. Talk about the rule of threes. The truth is that the agenda Trump is enacting is too unpopular to stand on its own feet, so instead, Trump slaps some gold paint on it.
They've never found a paint that looks like gold.
Sorry, gold-ish paint, and then attempts to sell a garbage product as if it's something great. But spinning tax cuts for the wealthy while then ripping away millions and millions of dollars from education and rural hospitals and Medicaid and weather warning systems and food stamps programs is not easy. You need to sell it. And you can't sell trash ideas like that without trash people like this. Charlie Kirk and everybody else in his putrid ecosystem on the right spends every waking moment of their days whipping Americans into a frenzy over DEI, pitting white people against brown people against black people, inflaming tensions on race, all so that their elected officials can get the cover that they need to do whatever they want, like making themselves richer at the expense of the poor. They do it constantly and without shame because villains need enemies to survive, because without them, they're just assholes with a fucked up mouth. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.